in general, the more I'm not even thinking about my lines, the more free I can be in finding different.
The reality is the tactic is going to depend on the delivery of your partner.
Really cool looking back on that and
Yeah.
being like, oh, something that I used to be uncomfortable with. Now I'd be
Yeah.
like,
I guess like being open to the possibilities of what comes to you. I think it's probably like a good way to put this.
like, yeah, if the crystal ball told you
Yeah.
that you're never gonna work again, would you still act? The things I learned through
Yeah.
just having the experience of going to university, what I learned about myself,
Yeah.
I don't think, it was for nothing. Maybe I needed those experiences.
What's up, guys? Welcome back with another episode of Breakthrough. Again, thank you so much, guys, for listening, for tuning in, for subscribing. In today's video and podcast, I have another actor friend of mine, Clarke. How's it going, Holly? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Thanks
doing
for having
amazing.
me.
Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, like this is something we started in December. And honestly, surprisingly, like I've been getting a lot of people who are, you know, wanting to come and, interested in like, sharing their experience with others and stuff. Now, I do want to just, because sometimes I have like people asking me like, why is this called Breakthrough? So the reason why this is called Breakthrough is just because we want to inspire people who are listening at home, people who have like dreams and goals or something that they actually are working towards. And I firmly believe that by, having someone come on and share their experience and see where they're at, it might actually inspire someone to really just go after their dreams, right? Because we often like associate breakthrough to something very big in our career, like a big milestone in our financial journey or like a big role on a TV show or something. But the reality is a breakthrough is just something as small as realizing that, you can do anything you want, just like waking up in the morning and just, acknowledging that, hey, like, I can do this, I can do that, having the drive to go after your goals, basically. So this is actually what inspired the whole podcast to begin with. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So take us through like your acting, I guess, debut. Like, how did you start? Like, what were you doing before? What got you into acting? Yeah, just take us through the entire journey.
Ooh, I've been acting, like taking acting classes probably since I was like 12.
Nice.
And then like did some little plays in school before
Dabbled with
that.
plays, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think I ever truly allowed myself, like when I say I did classes from like 12 years old, I was very like in and out. I knew that I loved acting, but I didn't really think I could have a future in acting.
Right.
So
Was it because you think it was more like I know for me, like I thought like, oh, you know what, acting is more like some people have it in them and like, I meant to like do something more like, classic, like people usually go like a big corporate job or something. Is it because of people around you, like what they said to you, or what do you think that is?
No, I mean, I was an athlete. So I
Nice.
think that was very much my focus. And then
Yeah.
acting was something that I loved to do. But at that time, I guess sport was more of a focus for me.
Nice.
Um,
So was it like the skating, the figure skating?
no.
So there was something before that.
I only started figure skating a year ago.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. So that was just to get me through the Canadian winters. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Do you know what netball is?
Netball. No, but I do want to take a guess at this.
Okay.
Is it close to volleyball? No?
No.
Okay. All right.
I'd say it's
I was
more.
thinking something else because I saw this. Do you know ping pong? Okay. Like there's like this this sport, okay, where they play it on a ping pong table at like an inclined ping pong table, and they play it with they usually play it with your feet. So instead of like,
Oh.
yeah, go check it out. Like you actually like hit the ball with your feet, but it's basically ping pong. Like you're on the natural inclined ping pong table, and then you serve with your foot, and then people start like using their. It's basically soccer on ping pong. Like it's just, I thought it was that. I don't know.
No, it's not that. I'm not that skilled.
Okay.
No, netball is like more akin to basketball, but still different. So you can't you can't dribble the ball. You have to stop. You can only take one step.
Okay.
There's like
It's like
different.
handball, no? Kind of?
Yeah, there's like different positions. So
Mm.
depending on what position you play, there's areas of the court that you can and can't go.
Yeah.
And then when you shoot, there's no backboard. You just have to get it straight in the hoop.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
So
I
that
guess
was like my big one, and then equestrian.
right. So I
Yeah.
guess there's no such thing as traveling in that because like
No.
you have like
Yeah, you're not allowed to. You can take one step. If you take
one
more than
step.
that,
Okay.
then
Because in
yeah.
basketball, you can't have like more than one
Yeah.
step or something.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the
So you
same
have to
for
like catch it. You can take one step and then you have to pass it.
nice netball.
Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna check
netball.
this out after.
Yeah, so that was like, I guess, my big focus. Uh and I don't know if it's like just how I grew up. Like I grew up on a farm, and I just
Nice.
whether I don't think it was like a conscious thing that like I was like, oh, I can't be an actor, but it was just something that I love. But I guess it never even occurred to me that I could do that or be that.
Right.
Uh,
So like, what made you realize that like,
yeah.
okay, now I feel like I can do this? Like, what was the
I think
turning
I
point?
kept coming back to it,
Okay.
and
Mhm.
I always joke that I tried so hard to not be an actor. You know, when people are
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
it's a hard thing. If there's anything
yeah,
else you can do, go and do it. And
yeah.
I
It's
tried.
like it's very similar, like as like when we're trying to play against something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very often when we cry, we try not to cry, but we can't
Mm-hmm.
help ourselves but to
Yeah.
cry, or we always like play against it.
Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
like you know, like I tried not to act, but it got the best of me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Well, yeah, I went to uni. Like you said, you have a engineering
yeah.
degree. So
Mhm.
I went to uni. I have my master's in osteopathy, like something completely
Wow.
different.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Didn't know that.
worked in private practice. And yeah, so I would say like the last maybe 8 years, I really like gave myself permission to pursue acting seriously.
Yeah.
Uh, and then yeah, moved to Canada
Nice.
4.5 years ago, or
Yeah.
coming up to four and
Did
a
you
half
give it a shot
years.
in Australia, or you didn't really?
Yeah, yeah, but it's I mean, it's a tough industry
Yeah.
everywhere, but
Yeah.
there's just more opportunity here.
Yeah. That's what I got told as well. I have some couple of my Australian friends as well. They told me that it was just much better for them to come to Canada. There's like just more shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, I mean, like they also like tried some stuff in Australia. I guess there's like way more here, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so you came here back in
2020,
2020,
September
right in
2020.
right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
They allowed you to come. I was like, oh, you know what? Just
Well, I was
bring
supposed to move 2 weeks before COVID started,
really.
and I delayed 6 months. At 6 months, and Melbourne was so locked down
Yeah,
at
you
that
guys had a
time.
pretty harsh lockdown. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was. I remember like at some point Australia had like literally no cases at all. At some point,
Yeah, yeah.
and then they wanted to keep it this way, so they literally just like closed borders for everyone. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think even
Yeah.
Australians couldn't come back to their actual. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah,
Yeah.
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 What was it? Australia, or New Zealand?
Australia.
Australia,
Yeah, I didn't know what New
because New Zealand
Zealand
also
was.
had like a pretty harsh COVID response.
Yeah,
But
I can't remember. I don't know exactly what theirs was,
yeah, yeah.
but
So you came here, and how did you? Because I know we obviously like met like you training with Deb, and it's kind of how we. I think I actually met you at a was it at a bar? I think like I met you at a bar,
at like a pool
a
hall,
pool hall.
right?
Yes, I
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah,
Yes, because I was with my friends. You were with yours. I was like, she
looks
looks familiar.
familiar.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen her before.
Yeah,
I was
on
like,
the
hey, like
wall with
yes. I was like,
Debs.
hey, like yeah. I was like, yeah. Are you with Deb? It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny world. So how did you get with Deb? Like, how did you find out about Deb? And
Yeah.
is this where you started, or you kind of just shopped around and?
No, so before I moved here, I had never been to Canada before. So when I
Mm,
moved here, it was like the first time
yeah.
I had ever been here. So I did a fair bit of research before coming.
Yep.
For
Due diligence.
yeah, for life things and then also acting things.
Fair.
So I actually started working with Deb before I even moved here. I did some online
Okay.
classes with her because during COVID,
Yeah.
everything went online anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
so yeah, kind of in preparation to
Mm,
move, I started working with her and classes were online. So I
yeah.
got to know her before I even moved here. And
Yeah.
then I just got lucky that when I got here,
Was it
she had a spot for me.
a spot for you? I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I also like did her online classes as well.
Hmm.
The mini scene studies, I guess that they
Yeah. Hmm.
and it's nice because I feel like the online class is very it's also like very cool in its own way because I mean, at least like when I was there, when I was doing it, the first class, we do a lot of like script analysis, which is
Yeah.
something that we don't really do in person.
No.
She kind of just like, she expects you to do all that work
Yeah.
and just come, know your goals, know your tactics and all that stuff.
Hmm.
But in the online one, right, like she has like her 13, 14 questions,
Yeah.
like a cheat sheet or whatever. And then, we talk it out with like, the other people on the Zoom. And so I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
It was definitely like very insightful. Nice. So I have your IMDb right here.
Oh my goodness.
I, I love that. I love having IMDb. It's always like a good starting point.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this Iron City,
Yeah.
and you played Armina.
Uh-huh.
Who is Armina? Walk us through that.
Gosh, oh my goodness. This was a while ago now. So I think, what does it say? Like
2019.
2019?
Yeah.
I feel like we started filming before that. That's probably like when it got
So that was in
released
Australia,
or
right?
whatever. That was in Australia,
Okay,
yeah.
nice.
That was a really fun, so that was a independent like mini series.
Yeah.
And I got to learn how to use tonfas and a sword,
Really?
and it was really
It was very
fun.
stunty.
Yeah, I got to do lots of stunts,
I love this.
and yeah, I also got to learn what it feels like to
Yeah.
sit around for 15 hours in like corset and all your armor and
Yeah,
be
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh gosh,
It's
could
like
we not
Xena
have
the
put this
Warrior. Watch
on
that
like
show.
right before? Yeah,
Remember
before
like
we
her,
started
like how
filming.
badass she was, like
Yeah.
with all her suit or whatever. Yeah, I mean a lot of sometimes you watch these actors on screen and like have like
Mhm.
these like super big suits and it's so detailed, like the chain and they have something like that, like something coming out of their fingers or whatever, like
Yeah.
Wolverine, and so much details going into this, and like I think it's probably like an hour to put on,
Oh
right?
yeah. 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 Well, that particular
Yeah,
uh wardrobe costume
yeah,
uh was intense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because
Nice.
some of it was actually made of metal
Really?
as well.
What was
So
the was it a show?
yeah, it ended up being like a web series.
Okay, what
Mhm.
was it about? What was the premise of the
The premise of that was, what if uh in World War II the Axis powers won? What would the world be
Oh,
like?
interesting. I like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it was like a history drama where if things didn't go the way they went, what would have
Yeah.
happened?
I mean, yeah, it wasn't like I didn't really delve into like the historics of it too much. It was kind of just
Mm.
like post that.
Okay, post that.
Yeah.
Right.
Like how would the world be different? But I think we only ended up filming like 6 episodes. It was
Nice.
independent, so
So
not
like did you like did they dress you as like a 1950s, 1940s
no, I was in like warrior armor,
warrior armor?
like a Valkyrie,
Valkyrie.
yeah.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so I want to just take a step back and talk about like, your acting process a little bit.
Mhm.
So obviously, like, I've heard a lot of people, their take on how do they prepare for roles and auditions and script when they get one. What do you think works for you when it comes to like, when you get a scene
Mhm.
or an audition, like what do you do with it? Like do you have like your own little thing that like your own little process that you follow, or do you just like revert to a certain like technique or something? Like
Mhm.
what's your to go?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it depends.
it depends.
And it
Depends.
changes.
It changes.
So I
Okay.
guess I mean, obviously if I'm in class or it's a play or something and I have more time,
Mhm.
it's a lot different than it would be for an audition.
Yeah.
Um I guess do you want me to talk more about auditions or?
I mean, just like in general, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel like if you, whether you get an audition or even like when you
Yeah.
get a scene from Deb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what do you do like
I guess
before you?
like the common things that
Mhm.
I would do for both. So,
Right.
I mean, read it. If
Yes.
you've got like the access to the full
Yeah.
play or the full episode,
Yeah.
read it, get as much information as I can.
Hmm.
Then, whether it's like the scene or the sides, read through them a bunch. Um,
Nice.
get an understanding. I like to get off book pretty quickly if I can,
Nice.
and I feel that frees me.
So okay, do you do this before like the actual like the script work or
I would say like when I'm reading through, I'm kind of simultaneously doing
right.
my sort of script work, or
Right.
I don't really sit down and like write things out in long form
Right.
too much
Yeah, like a general idea
anymore.
of like yeah.
Yeah, or I'll like make little notes as I go,
Hmm.
or like highlight or circle, or I usually have like heaps of like arrows like pointing to things with like little notes scribbled.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
but I don't really do like pages and pages of
Yeah.
notes for auditions and things like
Nice.
that. If anything,
Yeah.
talking about it out loud and like verbalizing it helps me more than writing it down.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I feel like writing it down makes it too
To
concrete,
I guess so,
and then
yeah.
I don't feel as like free to
Not as loose, yeah.
stray from those choices that I made. And maybe
Hmm.
after I've run it a few times, I'm like, oh no, this
Yeah.
feels more like her, or
Right.
yeah.
Uh
Mhm,
yeah, no, I like that. I mean, like it's obviously a lot of people have different ways that work for them. Now, like when it comes to character, I guess
mhm,
when it comes to like building the character, for example, how do you know what voice you want to give to the character, what accent, what body language, if the character has like a specific thing about them, a tick, or so how do you build that based
mhm.
off the page?
Yeah. Well, I think since I moved here, I've only had two auditions in my actual accent.
Okay,
Everything
in
else
Australian,
is decided. Yeah.
right?
So everything, and I can't even use my natural Australian accent because I
It's
don't sound Australian enough.
okay. You
Um,
don't sound you don't sound Australian enough in your natural accent.
no, apparently. So I have to like put on a more Australian accent.
You have to like
Uh,
you have to tighten it.
yeah,
Is this good enough for you?
yeah. Um,
I love it.
yeah, and then I mean, accent is always 99% of the time it's like general, like standard
Yeah,
American.
that's usually what
So
we
that's
get.
kind of
Yeah.
decided for me.
Hmm.
Uh, and then in terms of body language, I think that's just like when you're kind of reading the script or doing your script analysis, like looking for the little clues. I
Hmm.
guess like they say it's like you're a detective on the page looking for little clues about who the character is, and
Right.
then trying to um
Really like embody.
yeah.
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 Yeah. If the character is, for example, is using a gun, I guess you'd look at like the history. Like if this is a cop, he wouldn't be like holding the gun the same way like a normal person would, right? He'd
Hmm.
probably have more experience. He'd be like a little more confident with the gun.
Yeah.
I guess like stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? Um, and then I guess when you build a character, um, do you like do you reread the lines? Like I guess like you start like memorizing the lines in your normal accent, or do you like dive into the lines into like do you build a character first and then maybe you give it like a general like American accent and then that's when you start learning the lines? Do you like get in character before you actually start memorizing, or you memorize it and then once you're solid on
Mm,
it, you start like getting the character?
yeah. I mean, it's not always like this, but I would say
Hmm.
like I read it, script analysis, learn my lines, get into character.
Yeah.
I feel like if I mean it depends, but in general, the more I'm not even thinking about my lines,
Hmm.
the more free I can be in finding different
The better.
things
Yeah.
with the character.
Yeah. Which actually gets me to my next question, because this is something, I mean, a lot of actors deal with,
Hmm.
which is like, again, we have to be like so in the moment when we act. You cannot like anticipate, you cannot think about your, like, is it like, it is a hard thing, right? Because like when you when you've done the work before you actually start the scene, like okay, like this is my goal, these are my tactics, this is what I'm trying, this is what I wanted the scene, this is what I want from them. You kind of have to let go of that. Like you can't be thinking about your goal as you're saying your line.
Yeah.
It's gonna take, like, it's gonna throw you off, right? So I guess, like, how do you like stay in the moment where you're literally 100% present? You're not anticipating the line. You're not waiting for the cue. Like, like when you're literally laser focused in the scene, that like just like you're so connected. So do you find like it's just it comes naturally to you that to be, it's just like once you start the scene you're like literally locked in, or do you find yourself sometimes getting in your head, or or like no, like maybe you're like what do you think you stand? How do you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not immune to not getting in my head.
Yes, I feel like we all.
Yeah, that definitely happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the less I have to think or focus on other things, as prepared as I can be,
Hmm.
and then that helps me be in the moment more. I can just let everything go.
Yeah.
Um, so I like to say if I have like my main infrastructure of the scene, like you kind of have the bones of the scene, and I
Yeah.
know where the goalposts are, and then I can be free and in the moment in between them, and I know sort of
Yeah.
map out. And if it changes, it
It does.
changes,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's all part of being in the moment. But
Right.
at least having that in my mind, then I can sort of let go of my tendency to
Yeah.
overthink or overanalyze or get in my head.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I think it's good because, like, we sometimes I'm like, even I'm catching myself like, oh yeah, I'm in my head right now. I need to take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, go back to your goals, just think about that. But also, like, sometimes I guess, like, this is the thing where I feel like if you've done too much work on the paper, it can take you out of it a little bit, because you're always like, at least for me, I'm constantly like sometimes thinking about the work that I've done. I'm like, okay, which tactic was I using in this line? But the reality is, like the tactic is gonna depend on the delivery of your partner.
Yeah, what you're getting back.
Like what, like like if you pre-prepped something
Mm-hmm.
and then the other person gives it to you in a different way, then it doesn't make sense for you to, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like you gotta, acting is reacting, right? So like you
Yeah.
gotta react in a certain way, and that allows you to be free,
Yeah.
basically. I want to go back a little bit to because I know you're Australian.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find like the industry between Australia and here? Do you find like some notable differences, or would you say like it's just very similar, but there's like more here? What are the takeaways, do you think, between both sides?
I think they're quite different.
Yeah.
Also prefacing this by saying I haven't really been in that market for
True.
4.5 years, so it's
Yeah.
could definitely have changed.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's more opportunity here.
Yeah.
There's more episodic
Yep.
things that film here, which means that for each episode, they're needing new faces. They can't
Yeah.
reuse the same actors,
True.
so they're needing
Especially in TV shows,
new
right? Like
people.
if it's
Mhm.
aired once,
Yeah.
you can't keep reusing the same people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's still difficult, but there's more opportunities to build a resume.
Yeah.
I would say in that way.
Yeah.
I find, and this is just my personal experience,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
find like since I've been here, casting's a lot more open to seeing new people.
Mhm.
Like the amount, it's been a little quiet lately, but like
It
the
has.
amount
It
of
has been.
auditions that I would maybe get in 2 weeks here, I
Yeah.
might get in like 3 months in Australia.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Which I mean is then fair when you think of, okay, maybe casting there isn't as willing to bring in people they're not as familiar with
true.
because there's not as much going, so they're going to bring in
Yeah.
people that they know can
Deliver.
deliver, and
Yeah.
it's their job.
Yeah. It's just like
too,
safer, I guess,
so.
for them. It's more conservative to bring someone that they know they can get the job done, rather than just taking a chance
Yeah.
on someone new.
And that's not everyone. That's like such a
Yeah.
generalization. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It does happen sometimes. I mean, even then, like, even I guess, like, I mean, you can pretty much just that's also like really sometimes even here
Mm-hmm.
it does happen where you see this sometimes in MOWs where they just keep bringing back the same leads, the same actors, the same people.
Yeah, and if
Less,
they know those actors bring an audience,
yeah,
then of
yeah.
course, yeah.
There's also like the following as well, right? Where
Mhm.
people know this actor, this actress, like they've been like very familiar with the face. Chances are, if they cast them,
Yeah,
people are gonna watch the movie just because they're in it.
yeah, which is fair. It happens in
Yeah,
every other
yeah,
industry. So
yeah.
yeah.
I love that. Actually, like we're in each episode we always have like an ultimate question
Mhm.
that I always like ask my guests. So I think for you would be since you're Australian,
Yeah.
and sometimes we are required. And I mean, again, sometimes they would like prioritize Australian actors like for these kind of roles, but
Mhm.
in the events that we are required to do an Australian accent, how can we do an Australian accent fast for someone who's not Australian, who doesn't speak Australian? What are some of the quick tweaks we got to do, like accent wise, to put on something decent?
Oh, I don't know. Consult a professional dialect coach.
You're
It's
Australian, so
it's really I think it's really difficult to do an
Mhm.
Australian accent if you're not Australian.
Really, yeah.
Or at least when I hear people do it, I I think every single time I can
So
like, oh, they're not
you can spot that
Australian.
someone is Australian and someone is actually putting it
Mhm.
on.
Yeah,
Okay, that's interesting.
yeah.
Nice.
We grow up with so much North American content in
True.
Australia.
True. Yeah.
And maybe it's a little bit different now with social media, but I feel like maybe North Americans don't grow up with as much
Oh no, yeah.
Australian
It's
content.
very
So we hear the accent all the time growing up and probably, I don't know, mimic it when we're little and
yeah. It's actually
yeah.
why like a lot of uh Brits and Australian and Aussies have an easier time getting the general American
Hmm.
accent is because as you said, right, like the American industry, the American entertainment industry is just huge across the world.
Yeah.
It's really infused in a lot of like English speaking countries.
Hmm.
I mean, any country really, like even like non-English speaking countries as well. And I guess yeah, like when you watch a show or when you watch a movie, even when you go to the theater, right? Like
Hmm.
chances are there's a lot of American movies that are there, right?
Hmm.
So at a very young age, you're very exposed to
Yeah.
these kind of accents, and I guess yeah, you're probably like you'd
And
be like
also Australian, we just have so much slang and
yeah.
uh yeah.
Do you find it sometimes hard for you to understand other Australians, like depending where they're from, or like you can pretty much yeah,
Even if it's thick,
you just know.
you just I would say I don't really ever
Yeah.
have trouble understanding.
What if like if someone's from New Zealand,
Hmm.
you can also like spot, or sometimes it's a bit hard
Can
because
I
I
spot where they're from
yeah,
straight away?
really
New
I literally
Zealand,
cannot
yeah.
tell sometimes. It's extremely hard for me. I'm like
It's like
I can tell if it's like New Zealand, but like if it's like
listen for
Australian,
like the difference in like a E and I vowel.
E and I.
Yeah. So
Okay,
like if I was saying I have like my debit card.
my debit card. Okay, my debit card.
I'm gonna do like the worst New Zealand accent now,
Let's
but
try.
they would say something more like my debit card.
So it's
So
not
I would
debit,
say
it's debit card.
debit.
Debit card. My debit card.
Yeah.
My
Whereas
debit.
I would say debit. Or like I
Debit.
would say like fish and chips. And
Fish
they
and chips.
might this is such a
Fish and
stereotypical
chips.
example.
Fish and
And
chips.
they might say like fish and chips.
Fish and chips. Okay, so
Mm,
I feel like it's almost got an attitude thing, isn't it? Where like I guess like
ooh,
the because I didn't quite sense it in the fish and chips. If you want to maybe give it another go, but
right.
so fish and
Ooh, I feel
chips.
like the debit's a good
Debit is
example.
really good because I felt a
Like
debit.
debit, debit,
Yeah, so it's almost like a de and d. Debit,
maybe.
debit,
Yeah,
right? Like
I'm
it's
not exactly sure on the phonetics of it, but yeah.
it's what I'm getting. It's what I'm
Yeah.
getting from that debit card. Okay,
Yeah.
next time I see my New Zealand my friend, I'll be
Yeah.
like, hey man, can I borrow your debit
Yeah,
card?
get him to say 6 as well.
6.
I'm not gonna do that one.
We'll spare you that one, guys. I love that. I want to go to challenges for a bit. Um, has it occurred sometimes where you feel like you've been challenged in a way, whether in class?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure in class probably, but I guess more often on set, even where you feel like you booked something, or in any setting really, where you feel like you didn't know if you were going to be able to do this, if this is maybe outside of your range, or like,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know, this is not Holly, like this is not, I don't know if I have something in me that can like put,
Right.
you know what I mean? I can put on.
Yeah.
Um, has it occurred where you felt like you didn't know if you can do this, and then you maybe did it regardless, or you checked out, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would say I've experienced that more in like a class setting.
Yes, especially Deb, like, it's like she
Because
challenges us a lot. Yeah,
yeah. Which is great because then when opportunities do arise, you're
yeah.
like, ah, I've done this.
Yes, I did this.
Um,
I've been in class.
but
I've gone through
yes,
the
for
motions.
sure. There has been so many times
Yeah.
in class where I've been,
Do you have a specific example where you went out for a
yeah.
character where you felt like, oh,
So I moved here and it was my second month of class.
yeah,
So not only are you dealing with like your own acting
right,
things,
insecurities or
but
whatever.
you've
Yeah,
got like a
the people.
class full of people that
Yes,
you're not familiar with.
yes,
And
yeah,
uh
yeah.
Deb gave me a scene from a play, and basically I don't know if you've ever seen this scene in class. Basically, it's the phone sex scene.
Phone sex scene. I feel like it rings a bell. Maybe if you want to like walk me
Yeah.
through I might be able to remember it.
So
Phone sex.
basically, it's like two girls working at a call center, and
Oh,
somebody calls, and mhm.
okay. The rest. I see.
So,
Interesting.
but it's like
So you were
a
a call girl in the scene.
yeah, yeah, like yes,
Interesting.
basically. Uh,
Mhm.
and it is the most awful acting I've ever done in my life.
Really. It's fine. I mean, like, it's like we all. This was like what, your second class, you said.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, you can't be hard on yourself, like, for
No,
even.
well, no, I like laugh about it now, and I
Yeah,
think if I got given that scene now, I would be like, oh, I can do this.
give me this.
But not in like a, oh, I've got this way, but like it wouldn't bother me
It wouldn't
anymore.
bother. Yeah, because you're obviously like more
But back
confident now.
then,
Yeah,
I was like so deeply
yeah.
uncomfortable
And knowing
and
Deb, she probably like asked you to like, Holly, I really want you to act like a call girl, okay? Like
yeah,
knowing
yeah,
her,
yeah.
like, really,
Yeah.
she really like, she doesn't.
So,
Yeah,
yeah. But I mean, that's like also
yeah,
really cool looking back on that and
yeah.
being like, oh, something that I used to be uncomfortable with. Now I'd be
Yeah.
like, that's
It's
fine.
progress, right?
Yeah, I would say being in her class specifically has made me a much more brave actor,
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely. I mean, right. Like, I recognize you from the photo of the wall, so I guess
Mhm.
it speaks for itself, right?
Mhm.
Even sometimes, I seeing Deb's stories, and you've been pretty consistent. Like, I always like see you on Wednesdays, and sometimes I see Keith taking pictures
Yeah.
of like the scene. I'm like, wow, what a great angle, and like, and I can see you committed in the scene, or like throwing something at your partner or whatever. It's like, that's Holly. That's Holly.
Abusing my partner,
Abusing
throwing
your
something
partner,
at
like
them.
fucking giving him a hard time or whatever. That's
Yeah.
it. Like, that's Holly in action right there. Like,
Mhm.
I love that. This is great. This is good. Um, nice, nice, nice. So you said you moved here in 2020, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so you didn't really experience the industry before COVID, right? So you
Mhm.
went straight into the industry like post COVID,
Mhm.
because before that we had like we actually went used to go in the casting room.
Yeah.
We had very little to no self tapes, if
Mhm.
anything. Most self tapes like were like Toronto and like abroad, right? Um, do you find like this new way of like auditioning? And I know if you kind of like audition like, a little bit in Australia, because I know you said like you didn't stay there long enough. But do you feel like this new way of auditioning, like by self tapes, and having, I guess, like the freedom of doing like however how many ever takes you need like to get it? Do you feel like this way of like auditioning is good, is healthy for you as an actor, or would you rather just go in the room and like do
Mhm.
something more classical? You know?
Yeah. I mean, when I was in Australia, like I would audition there and go in the room, but everything that I auditioned for, there was like a US production was self-tape anyway, so I was
Right.
already familiar enough with
Self tapes.
self-tapes.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be very hard to have like the day job that I have now
Hmm.
if it were always in the room auditions. It
Yeah.
would be stressful,
Yeah.
probably trying to get things covered. Like my
Yeah.
life would look different than it
Yes.
does right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely
Um,
like challenging, especially for a lot of people because, I mean, especially before COVID, where we used to go in the room, if you have like a regular 9 to 5 and you have like an appointment at like, in the middle of the day,
mhm.
like if you have like I mean, I guess depending on the job, right? But if you're in a corporate setting where you have like an actual 9 to 5, it's hard to just like leave to audition.
Yeah.
I was definitely in this position before
Yeah.
where it was coming up a lot where I was like, "God, I mean, I can, like, what am I going to tell my employer? Like, hey,
Mhm.
like, I'm going to go audition. I'll be back in an hour. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it might pass 1 or 2 times, but like, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
I'm going to get fired. Right.
Yeah.
So, I feel like this, from that standpoint alone, where you have the flexibility, to just like send the take that you want, that you love.
Mhm.
And, but also like, I've also like interviewed other guests, and some people also do prefer the other style where, they'd rather go in the room because they like, I guess the first impression that they can leave with casting,
Right.
because this is something that we don't get to do now. Like you just do your
Yeah.
take, you slate, your first impression is your slate. You better,
Yeah. I
put
mean,
on that
I
smile and
never experienced it the other way around,
yeah.
but I mean, there's like challenges in that too. I've never
Hmm.
met, no, aside from commercial casting, I've never met
Hmm.
any casting directors in person when I've
So you don't
booked
even
it.
know
It's
what
been off
do
self-tape,
you know what they
so
look
I've
like? Not even.
no, unless like I see their picture.
Yeah, I love that.
So when I've booked, it's been
Yeah.
from self-tape, so I've actually never met
Yeah.
casting, so I don't have like a yeah, you don't get sort of that like energetic exchange, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, a lot of them, like, I mean, a lot of them are still in town. Like, I still like recognize some of the names, and I was like fortunate enough to at least see them at least all once
Mhm.
before COVID came. So, but again, I guess like sometimes people do prefer the redirect that you get in the room, because
Yeah.
sometimes if you're lucky, you get like another take or like a third take,
Mhm.
and you might get a redirect. It's a bit harder to do that over tape.
Yeah.
Although what I think the alternative is what I do. It's also something that Deb told me, which I think is great. I always like send 2 or 3 takes,
Mhm.
especially if they don't say it. That's kind of the way of like redirecting yourself, because you don't know what they want, right? So
Yeah.
especially if it's like a short scene, send 2 takes,
Yeah.
but only send 2 takes if it's different, right? So
Yeah.
that's what she said. Like if they are somewhat similar, then don't bother,
Don't.
because it's gonna make you look bad.
Yeah.
But if they're like dramatically different,
Yeah.
if they're like drastically different, then yes,
Mhm.
because you don't know what they want.
Especially
Then
if it's a short scene.
yeah, might as well give them everything.
Yeah.
Let them choose, right? So that way they know like what you look like. Um, so I'm also like intrigued, like how much does acting take in your schedule right now? Like what do you do as well? Do you have like
Mhm.
what's your day job that you do on top of your
Yeah, I
career?
teach Pilates.
Oh, nice. Right
Yeah.
on.
So that's fun.
I've never actually tried Pilates. Is that like a more like a women's thing, or like a lot of people do?
Everyone is welcome.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I do want to try it, but I
Come.
wasn't sure if it was
Yeah.
like.
No. Everyone. Pilates is for everyone.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
man, I might take you up on that
Yeah.
sometime.
For sure. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so that's my day job. I teach Pilates.
Mhm.
But like when I moved here, there was a point where I had 4 jobs. Like Vancouver's tough,
It is.
you know?
Yes, it's hard. I mean, it's also expensive,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's just for a lot of you guys who are watching, like Vancouver is honestly it's by far the most expensive city in Canada. It's just it's outrageous. Like the rent, the cost of life, groceries, everything is just like
Yeah.
super expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when when you live in an expensive city,
Yeah.
well, guess what? You need either a really good job or multiple jobs.
Yeah.
It's usually one or the other.
Yeah.
So you had 4 jobs at some point?
Yeah.
My
And now
goodness.
I'm lucky. I just have the one, and I
Oh, you
sometimes
downsized to 2,
So my main one is Pilates, and then sometimes I'll do like some admin work for a company
Nice, nice.
as well. Yeah.
And I guess like that also like is flexible enough for you to do your acting and
Yeah.
go to deb and
Yeah.
audition.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like in classes as much as I can to keep getting better and just
Yeah,
I guess like going to the gym, just keeping your repetitions up,
I
not
agree.
getting rusty.
Yeah, I mean like acting is basically just like going to the gym, right? You need to like very similarly like when you go to the gym, you have to keep going to stay in shape.
Mhm.
You have to keep training as an actor to like keep that
Yeah. I guess
acting
it's the
muscle.
same as like singing or something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
If you don't sing for a year and
Yeah.
then
Your
you get
throat.
like a big opportunity, I'm sure
Yeah.
you might be a little rusty. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes, I think we all
Um,
relate to that. Yeah.
and then I'm lucky now that I have a few hobbies outside of that keep me
Yeah.
sane and just living my life.
I love it.
Hmm.
I love that. That's amazing. So what do you think is like the what is the end goal for Holly here? Like what do you think is the dream? Paint us a picture of like the finish line. When do you think that like you would feel like you made it? Okay, this is it. We're here. What's the end goal?
Never. I'll never feel like I've made it.
I mean, I feel
I
like I've
think
made it.
isn't that like the thing you're always like thinking like
There's
for
always
the
more.
next
There's
thing.
always more. I
Yeah.
agree. Yes.
So I think
It's always
just
good to like
I think like well, to answer both things,
yeah.
what's the dream and then what's the end goal? I think the end goal is to just like be, it doesn't even sound like an end goal, but to
Yeah.
be present and just enjoy
Yeah.
the journey of life and try to not think too much about, I want this, this, and this, and it keeps going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big one for me. Just enjoy the now
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah.
even if life doesn't look exactly how we
Yeah.
might want it to.
Yeah.
And then I think the dream, like if I could pick any kind of acting role, I think it would be
When you have like
probably like TV over film.
yeah.
And not necessarily for a preference, just if I had a lead role in a film versus a lead role in a TV show.
Yeah.
TV, I'd get to work more, and
I
I
agree.
love the work.
Yes, I agree.
So,
Although I mean sometimes movie do pay more at once, but it has to be like a big production movie, and also you have to be like top 4, top 5, or hence why obviously like getting a role in a show is more especially if the show gets picked up, right? For
well,
multiple multiple
that's
seasons.
it. But then you get to just work so
Yeah.
much more, and that's
Yeah.
I don't know, for me what it's all about.
Nice. So do you feel like you would have like bigger aspiration? Because like, I've interviewed other guests and people really sometimes do want to go for it. Like, end up in Hollywood and end up in LA, like just really try it out, right? Do you feel like you have these bigger aspirations, or you feel like you want to get to a point where like, okay, I'm a working actor. I'm quite happy with my role on the show. Do you feel like this is good enough for you, or you would there was always something bigger that you could reach?
I would be happy to
Yeah.
be like consistently like
Yeah.
a working actor,
Yeah.
being able to have that as my sole source of income
Yeah.
would be
That'd be
great.
amazing. Yeah.
And then not necessarily like the Hollywood dream in terms of the fame and stuff like that. In
Yeah.
fact, that doesn't interest me at all. I like my
Yeah.
anonymity.
Yeah.
But I don't know if forever I'd be like content doing little roles here and there. Like you
Yeah.
always want to have like those meaty roles where you can really
Yeah. So I feel
dive
like
in. So
yeah.
like I think I do have bigger aspirations, but
Mhm.
not necessarily like the Hollywood shiny.
Yeah. So I guess like being open to the possibilities of what comes to you, I think it's probably like a good way to put this. Because I don't think you would like you would refuse a role if they asked you to like fly to LA and be like
No.
the lead on a show or a movie there, you'd not say you didn't say
No.
no to that, right? Like
I mean, like
take me,
when
I'll go.
Yellowstone was happening, if they were like, we want Holly, I'd be like, I'm there.
I'm
I
all
ride.
yours. I'm all yours. Just tell me where you
Yeah.
want me to go. I'll
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. You know what? I actually like I kind of agree with you because sometimes a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people, do have these big aspirations where they want to be famous, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like it's
Mhm.
just it's if that's what you want, that's okay,
Mhm.
right? But I feel like also in this craft, in this industry, it's really hard. At least what I think, it's really hard to go far if you don't have if you don't have like a deeper reason underneath,
Mhm.
right? Like I mean, you gotta really love this. Like you gotta be acting for the sake of loving it.
Mhm.
You can't be like acting because you wanna, I don't know, like get rich or get famous or grow your Instagram following or whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, like when you actually look at all these actors, they didn't think they
Yeah.
were gonna get famous. Like
Yeah.
Brad Pitt or Leo, like it happened because they were so good at
Yeah.
what they're doing
Yeah.
that they got the attention of the world, and like it made them like famous, like despite the fact that they never thought they would be.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is usually how it happens, where you love the craft so much, you love performing, you love playing these
Mhm.
complex characters that we don't get
Mhm.
to play in real life,
Yeah.
and I think that that's the beauty of this industry and why it's so cool is because sometimes when you look at a character, you're like, oh, like this is interesting, this is not a character I could play in real life because this is not me. But it will be interesting to put yourself in the shoes of
Yeah.
that person and like understand like why do they act like this? Like obviously like you said that you were playing a call girl at some point in the scene with Deb.
Mhm.
No woman is born a call like to be a call girl. Like it
Mhm.
comes from some, sometimes it's like from family trauma, from abuse, from
Mhm.
something underneath, and tapping into that sometimes is is rewarding. Like you understand people more. You understand like human connections more. Like you empathize with these people
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, a very dear friend of mine,
Mhm.
Sachin, if you're listening,
Yeah.
um, once said, I think this was like a really
Mhm.
cool analogy, was like if someone gave you a crystal ball
Yeah.
and you looked into the crystal ball and it told you that you would never get another paid acting job in your life,
Oh, I
would
like
you
that.
still act?
If this is your last role ever,
Like, yeah, if the crystal ball told you
yeah.
that you're never gonna work again, would you still act?
Yes, that's a good question. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
And I think that there's like I mean, not telling people to ask themselves that
Yeah.
question,
Yeah.
but like yeah, like I would still be in class because I just love it, or
Yeah.
doing like
Yeah.
indie projects that aren't paid, or
Yeah.
you know.
I have this conversation a lot with my actor friends as well, where I keep telling them like I'm not doing this for the money.
Mm-hmm.
Like cast me and don't pay me. I'll still do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never asked to be paid to be on a show or anything. Like I still do it.
Mm-hmm.
I just love performing. I love playing. Um, it's fun. It's just like it brings me joy. It brings me happiness. This is what I mean. I think it's not the only thing I like, but
Yeah.
it's one of the things that I love to do. And it does bring me joy, right? I just wish like I realized this sooner in my career.
Yeah, I have those moments too,
Yeah,
for
me
sure.
too. Yeah.
But I also think, because I mentioned that I did acting when I was a lot younger and
Yeah.
sort of left it and came back and left it
Mhm.
and came back
Yeah.
until I fully
Mhm.
sort of gave myself permission to go for it. But
Yeah.
I think I needed to. I needed different life experiences. And I was saying I went to uni for 5 years
Mhm.
for something that I no longer use. I mean, it definitely comes in handy with, like, I did clinical Pilates and now Pilates.
Nice.
So it comes in handy, and it's not, something that is completely a waste. But
Yeah.
um, the things I learned through
Yeah.
just having
Mhm.
the experience of going to university, what I learned about
Mhm.
myself,
Yeah.
I don't think yeah, it was for nothing. Maybe I needed those experiences, and or else I wouldn't be
Yeah.
where I am or who I
Yeah.
am.
Actually,
Yeah.
this is a great point that you just touched on because you know what I realized, honestly? I realized that um, a lot of the people who actually do make it in this industry, and I learned this from um, Marius Gavrelis. Shout out if you're watching. They have a strong why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's an acting coach who told me once in LA when I trained with him, Bernard Hiller. A lot of the people who do make it, they have a strong why, right? And the why is not something like, hey, because I want to get famous, I want to make money, I want to be on TV, I want to be on shows, I want to play, blah blah. There's always something underneath, like really, really, that you're doing this. And when I asked Marius, like, what is your why?
Mm-hmm.
He said to me, because this guy is honestly honestly like Red Stain, like he's a phenomenal voice actor, like he's a phenomenal actor, like he's so inspirational, like he's honestly like one of the first guy I looked up to
Mm-hmm.
going into acting. I was so inspired, and the level of commitment like I was like seeing in his work was so, yeah. So when I asked him like, what is your why? Like what do you think is your why? And he said to me, I remember, he said, honestly, you just got to have a life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to what you just said, because everything you do in life helps you
Mm-hmm.
to act, right? Like the more you go through life, right? The more you go through pain, through joy, through traveling, through relationships,
Mm-hmm.
the more you're going to be able to bring that
Yeah.
into your work, right? So as you said, right? Like when you did that degree, whatever, you probably like learned things that not everybody know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then sooner or later, like you're
Yeah.
probably going to be able to use some of that into a character,
Oh yeah.
right? Like if you're playing like a lady who's very, she has a master's degree and she's very highly educated, and like she comes from a family and like blah blah blah. You'd be able to tap into that because you kind of you've done the master, you've done that, you've seen it, right? So the more you go through stuff, the
Mm-hmm.
easier it is to play a certain character.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember like one of the first shorts I did, I had to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
And like everyone knows, like I literally do not smoke.
Uh,
Nothing. I don't smoke cigarette, weed, vape, nothing. I've never put
mm-hmm.
something into my mouth. It never
Mm-hmm.
happened. So one day, like when I was in the room and I was auditioning for the short, the guy asked me like, "Hey, do you smoke?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like I'm like, "Yeah, I smoke, man. I'm good."
Yeah.
It's like, "Yeah, we just want to make sure, because like this is a heavy smoker role." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, no worries. I got it. It's good."
Yeah.
And like I was like shitting my pants because like I don't smoke, right?
Yeah.
So some
Also, just like even the physicality of smoking if
yeah,
you're not a smoker.
yeah, it's just the physicality, even
Yeah.
like the way you actually hold the cigarette. Some
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
some people are like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like
Yeah.
there's different like
Yeah.
mannerisms, like the way you hold it.
And I
Like
feel like smokers can tell if you're not a
yes,
smoker.
this is like more like a
Yeah.
weed gesture, and this is like more like smoking and something. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, or like cigars, for example, right? That's even like another one, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, so I remember like he asked me like, hey, like if you smoke, and I was like, yeah, I do smoke, like it's fine. And then I did get the role, which is good, but now I needed to like figure out how the fuck am I gonna smoke, because
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
do that, right? So I ended up like going on YouTube and I literally Googled like
Yeah.
smoking tutorial or
Oh my
something.
God, YouTube.
I sort of got like YouTube is like a life saving sometimes. I was like, like I was like zooming in, like watching, like
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so like right hand, two fingers about like like a fist away from it. You know what I mean? Like it was just
Yeah.
like very technical. Okay, like how often do you take a puff? Inhale, exhale. Like it was so
Yeah.
like I was like literally like laser like watching the performance of the smoker. And it's funny enough, like I came on set, and I was the first scene was actually me outside smoking a cigarette. So I was like trying to remember what I watched on YouTube, and I didn't rehearse it, but I've never actually like, what I should have done is probably like get one of my friends who smokes and like just like really run it by them
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
It's only what I should have done. I didn't think of it. anyways, I just decided to wing it. I was also like a newer actor at the time. Like I wasn't sure. Like I was like, you know, like it's just like a short, you know, I'll get away with it. Like it can't be that bad, right? So, and then I was like, you know, I was like smoking, and I was like, fuck, okay, like I gotta sell this. You know what I mean? Like I can't fuck this up. So I'm like first take, I'm doing this, and I'm like, you know, I'm like watching, and it's like the director is looking at me after the day. He comes and he's like, yeah, you've never smoked, have you? I'm sorry, man. It's just like I was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just like, you know, stuff like that where you have to go through stuff. The more you go through stuff, I'm not saying like, you know, go smoke or
Yeah.
anything, but like, you know, it's just
Yeah.
the more you go through stuff, the more you can actually bring things to the table, and the more you're
Yeah.
gonna be free and play. Yeah, so that's good. Do you have like any directorial aspirations, or do you feel like you just want to act? Because sometimes I notice a lot of people, especially like I notice like on TVs, like
Mhm.
where a lot of actors like they direct an episode after they've, you know, acted like for a while on the show. Do you feel like this is something that you want to step into at some point in your career, or acting is literally just all it is for you? Or maybe you want to produce a film or something. I
I
don't know.
don't think I want to produce.
Mhm.
I don't like paperwork.
I'll only do the one if I get casted, I'll go through that, but that's as far as it gets.
No, I feel like it's funny because I think a lot of people think I'm like super type A, but the thought of like
Really?
doing
Yeah.
that just ugh, I'm like I don't. I feel like I could. I think I'd probably be okay at it. I don't know that I'd
Yeah.
fully enjoy it though. Who knows? I've never done it.
Right.
Maybe I
Yeah.
would.
Yeah. Never say never,
Um,
right? So yeah.
yeah. Directing, maybe. I don't really have aspirations now
Hmm.
too, but I would be open to it,
Yeah.
but not something that I'm like consciously striving for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. I mean, I've had people like on different side of the spectrum where, you know, people want to produce their own film, or they have a
Mhm.
story they want to tell.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not a writer myself. Like, I mean, English is not my first language, so I can
Mhm.
definitely not write. Um, but I think it would be maybe interesting um, to mess around with that at
Mhm.
some point.
Mhm.
And I don't know when, but I feel like maybe I would like enjoy, I guess, like maybe directing at some point, but
Yeah.
um, not to the point where like, you know, I want to like do like, I had like a guest at some point, and I asked him like, hey, like, yeah, what's your dream? Is like, yeah, man, like I just want to like, you know, produce like movies just like James Cameron, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, okay, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
Good for them. Oof.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, like again, like it's just some people really have big dreams, like big directorial dreams and producing and stuff,
Yeah.
and good for them, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just yeah. But again, before we wrap this up, just last thing I want to ask you is obviously like this is still, you know, a fresh new year, 2025.
Mhm.
We're a second month into it. What are you looking forward this year? Is there anything that you have set for yourself as far as resolutions, or is there anything that you're working on, perhaps acting wise? Anything that you're that we should probably like know about, or not? I don't know.
Ooh. I mean, aside from, I think like every actor,
Hmm.
yeah, like I want to like book things, but
Yeah.
I think just focusing on what's in my control, just being the best that I can be,
Hmm.
making sure when opportunities come up that I'm ready.
Hmm.
I'm working on finishing my animation demo at the moment.
Oh, voiceover.
Yeah, it's
Nice,
taking a while, but
nice. That's something I want to get into. I actually like
yeah.
interviewed a couple of voice actors on
Mhm.
the pod, and learned a lot. I want to
Mhm.
get into voice acting. That's actually one of my New Year's resolution. I
Yeah,
want to get
cool.
up and running. Nice. So how's that going? Like your animation reel, I guess.
It's going good. It's just, I guess, like getting recording space and things like that, it can get expensive.
I can,
And
yeah,
then life happens
yeah.
and
I've heard the library is actually not a bad place to do that.
oh,
Actually,
okay.
you
Yeah.
know, libraries, the library,
Yeah.
they have like well, believe it or not, they have like sound booth
Oh,
that you could,
really?
yes,
Oh,
that you could
cool.
just like either rent or
Mm.
probably I mean, like I think you could probably like book them at a very small fee,
Yeah.
but literally just like the library, like down the
Okay,
street
cool.
on Robson, and
Okay.
yes, check it out. They have
Yeah.
like they have everything. They have
Yeah.
sound booth, and like they have the machine and the mic and
Yeah.
everything.
Awesome.
I have some friends who actually use it, so that's a
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Also, UBC, like like schools sometimes
Oh
they
yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's a great place. But I agree, yeah, because you also need like the soundproof space
Yeah.
where the last thing you want is like an airplane passing as you're like
Yeah.
mid, like half through your
Yeah, yeah,
animation,
yeah.
and like you're in it, just like whoop,
Yeah.
and it ruins the whole take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that's been really fun, and I
Hmm.
think has been a great way, yeah, reconnect with like the fun of acting and the curiosity,
Yeah.
which we do in
Mm.
auditions and things like that. But I think there's also something about animation that just brings out
Yeah.
the like childlikeness,
Yes. I
which
love
I
that.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it's good. I feel like especially sometimes like when I'm watching like Disney movies,
Mm.
and I'm listening to this character, like oh man, love this voice. I feel like
Yeah.
I want to try this on sometime.
Right? And like how much fun
It
you
is.
just get to
You get to feel like a
play.
kid again,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, like we're all like kids at heart right now.
Mhm.
Like we're grown up and stuff, but at the end of the day, like we all have the kids in us where
Mhm.
we want to play and we want to feel all these little things that we did when we were younger and stuff. Nice. As far as like non-acting, like, do you
Mhm.
feel like you have anything you're looking forward to this year?
Oh,
So
I can't sit still. So I have so many
nice. I love it.
things that
Busy
yeah,
Holly.
yeah. Like I said, I grew up doing equestrian, so I've been riding since I was 4.
Hmm.
Uh, so horse riding, I still do
Yes.
to this day.
I still
So
have not
always
done that
excited
yet. I have
for
no idea.
that.
Like I'm scared.
Oh yeah?
I've like never. I've gone on a horse before, but
Mm-hmm.
like I was with someone,
Yep.
but I've never actually
Right.
And I saw what you honestly. It's so impressive what you do. Like like you're on the horse. What are the like the hoops,
Jumping?
the jumpings?
Yep. Yeah.
Like it's so fat. It's like because I see this on the Olympics, obviously. Like
Mm-hmm,
this
mm-hmm.
this is an Olympic sport, and I'm always like amazed by how much like the horse is so smart. Like it's just like he
Yeah.
jumps and he knows the track,
Yeah.
and it's fascinating. Like I
Yeah.
love watching your videos, like just like
Well,
you horse
thank
riding.
you.
It's
Yeah.
good.
Well, it's pretty cool to be in a sport where your
Yeah,
teammate is an animal. It's
yeah,
pretty special.
it's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially like horses. Like they're very smart creatures,
Yeah.
right? Very very super
Yeah.
nice creatures.
Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah. So
cool.
that skating,
Skating, yeah.
yeah.
Awesome,
I'm sure
awesome,
there's other things,
awesome.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the great, amazing, multi-talented Holly Clarke, everybody. Thank you so much again, guys, for watching. Again, don't forget to subscribe. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But until next time, guys, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next episode.